Do you want to be able to absolutely destroy the end game on a sorcerer, while also being able to take out mobs that are 8 or 10 levels above you, even push your T4 Capstone solo and other things, and even maintain a nice AoE just like Fire Source, while also being able to do all this while not having any gear requirements? Then I got the build for you. What's up, world? We're back in the video, checking out all things Diablo 4. Okay, so let's just jump into the build, and I'm going to go over the talents very quickly, as you've kind of already seen it mostly from my previous build, but also where it's just the talent portion, and I want to go over some of the gear stuff. However, no gear is required to make this build work, but let's just jump onto the build itself. So we're obviously going into ice for the slows and stuff of that, so we're going Frostbolt here, and we're going to max that out, and then go into Enhanced Frostbolt, and then the Glinting Frostbolt here. We do want that mana regen. It's actually pretty decent. I had a comment that recommended this down below, switching off here, and they were right about that. I should have switched it, so we're switched into the mana regen. Now I have 7 here because we're contributing from an item, but again, it's not needed. We just do 5 of 5. We go in here, Enhanced Ice Shards, and then we come down in here to the Vulnerability. Moving on over here, we do want to get 1 at least into our ice armor. That's usually what I just take, it's just 1. You could do more if you like. I like to just do 1. And then we're going to go into the active ice armor here, which gives you the mana regeneration. And then we're also going to get damage against vulnerabilities, contributes to 50% more of Ice Armor's barrier. That's why I really only go into 1 here, because we're already making so many enemies vulnerable that this is also contributing to the ice barrier, and usually it doesn't break before it actually runs out. So I like to just keep it at 1. Again, I always like to go into Glass Cannon. We're going to go 3 of 3 in Glass Cannon, and then we're also going to go 3 of 3 of Elemental Attunement, which is critical strikes have a 50% chance to reset the cooldown of one of your defensive skills. And this is amazing with some synergies with other items, and as well as with Frost Nova, which we're also going to take here. Frost Nova. Now we want to get this cooldown as much down as we can, but if we can't, we'll get it up to at least 5 of 5 or maybe 6 and 7. Next up, we'll go into Enhanced Frostbolt, which reduces its cooldown, and then we'll go into the Vulnerability tab, as just the other one doesn't really do much, and it does generate some mana here, but we're not really going to need that because this is probably going to be an ability that you're going to use right off the bat, and so you're not going to be using a ton of mana off the bat, and so I would recommend going into the Vulnerability, as it's just going to make everything vulnerable and kind of guaranteed instead of having to hit it all with the Ice Shards. And moving on here, we go to Line on Elements, and this is item contribution, so we don't have to worry about that here. We're going to come into 1 into Icy Veil because we have to, and then we're going to get 3 of 3 on Snap Freeze and 3 of 3 of Cold Front. We're also going to come down here and get all the blue marks here, so you can fill these out. These are definitely needed. These are all really good. Vulnerable damage here. We got some mana regeneration from Vulnerability, Chilled Effect, and the elite damage as well. Now this is one of your main things here. This is called Avalanche. This is like your main key passive, as this does so much for you. It's going to reduce the mana cost on a lot of things, which also reduces the mana cost on another item, and it also increases the damage against vulnerable enemies. And so we're actually going to go into Blizzard. Now I did swap this out from my last build, which was Hydra, but we're actually going to go into Blizzard. And the reason why is this just creates an insane amount of synergy with this build. It's really fun to play. It's really good, and it has that type of ice wall. Now, you might think, wow, 40 mana cost is quite a bit. When are you going to be casting this? Well, the beauty part of having this passive is it's constantly giving us a charge for our Blizzard, a free charge. And if you're spamming these 2 buttons, it's kind of hard to dictate when to stop spamming these buttons, and you don't need to do that. In fact, what you can do is while you're spamming these buttons back and forth, or if you have a certain synergy with it while you're doing your rotation, you can also spam your key or whatever button it is to hit your Blizzard, and it will hit Blizzard right as soon as it's done with. So as soon as it procs that Avalanche passive, you can hit Blizzard and it will interrupt these 2, and it will put down a Blizzard for free. So it won't cost any mana, and so you can constantly spam this. However, this is kind of like your main ability. This is an ability that you're popping down on these big AoE packs, especially when you're taking on mobs that are 10 levels above you. You're really going to want to pop Blizzard first a bunch of times, put it on the ground, get mobs slowed, and then maybe go into Frost Nova or save your Frost Nova for a later date, as you can use this as a getaway or a vulnerability increase. But Blizzard does such a good job. Like I said, it's like Firewall, but it does insane amounts of damage, and it also outputs incredible amounts of kiting and slows and things like that. Let's just move on to the gearing stuff, as You can see through my gears. Again, none of this is really needed, but it really does help the synergy of this build if you have some of these items here. And I'll go through some of these. One of them I just got, which was the main weapon here, the Ancestral, on a T4 item there. Other than that, everything else has been kind of the same. Now, the reason why you want your defensive cooldowns to reset is you're going to have two of them here. You're going to have your Frost Nova and your Ice Armor. So getting those to reset on that charge there is also insane. If you get this Lego that deals additional damage when you have your Ice Barrier active, knocking this off cooldown and having that constantly active like that is so good for damage, as well as also being able to pop right into Frost Nova. There's a couple things here like core skills, hit 5 or more enemies, then you'll get your resource refunded. This is really good when you have the piercing ice shards, which I don't have on anything just yet. We have also here, we have the frozen to deal 25% additional damage. That's going to help us a lot. I have a heal here because I needed to get through some T4 Capstone stuff. This I switched out for bubble. I'm going to try it. It's basic skills. I have armor here as well. This armor damage, again, a lot of the stuff I want to have right now is to resist some of the damage taking in because I'm fighting 8 to 10 levels above me. And then ice spikes. This is incredible. So when Blizzard is cast, it will periodically spawn ice spikes. And these ice spikes kind of appear on the ground. They pop up in the Blizzard. These are really, really good for Blizzard. I would recommend trying to get this item or imprinted. I also have 3 sacred unique stuff here. And so, or this is actually just unique, I guess, but these 2 are sacred. This one here does frozen chance to unleash a Frost Nova when the enemy perishes. If you're downing a bunch of enemies, they can spread out this Frost Nova effect. It's really, really cool. Helps out a lot. I really do like it. That everything kind of gets frozen. It expands your Frost Nova a bunch. Definitely one to shoot out for. I don't really know where to get a bunch of these pants and all of this stuff. I think I got it in a few dungeons or nightmare dungeons. We also have a critical strike here bonus here that says your critical strike chances increased by 25% of your movement speed bonus. All of this on here, on these boots here, have movement speed bonus after downing an elite, and then slow duration reduce. They also have the evade will grant movement speed bonus for 1 second up to 50%. That's insane amounts of crit right there, at least I think, when you pair it up. However, you're probably going to want a lot more movement speed on other items, but I do think these are good boots to go for. And then this one is probably one of your main ones you're going to want to go to. This is a 50% critical strike chance against injured enemies. Again, not sure if ice is considered injured, but the second part of this is while you're healthy, you gain a 30%, 20 to 40% here, increased crowd control duration. So this is going to increase your crowd control on your Frost Nova, which is just absolutely insane because the Frost Nova helps out so much with keeping bosses locked down and kind of maintaining them in a certain area and kind of getting them all grasped together and getting that vulnerability out there. So increasing the duration is going to help you a ton against these harder enemies. Now, I'll briefly go over the Paragon board here, although maybe I'll make another guide for it. Here I just have the Glyph Socket as the Enchanter as the first one because there's a lot of int right here, but I might switch this out for a different board eventually. I have it up to about level 8 or 9, I think, and this is up to 34% non-physical damage. And then I chose the Frigid Fate board, which is dealing cold damage to vulnerable enemies, increases your lucky hit chance, and we're also trying to increase that lucky hit chance because that's resetting our defensive cooldowns. Again, that's what you really want, is to reset these defensive cooldowns as much as you can. Get your Frost Nova up, get your Ice Barrier up, which will also increase your damage. So a few things there, you're getting vulnerable damage here. Focus on vulnerable damage, and then this other Glyph Socket, I have Frostbite, which helps out 21% damage to chilled enemies. This, honestly, the synergy with this build is so much fun to play. I recommend it all. It's probably the funnest I've had in this game, is getting this build to work right, finally switching off of Hydras and getting this down. So I wanted to make an updated video for you guys because I really do really like this build, and I think it's going to help you guys out a lot. But if you enjoyed it, like and subscribe. Until the next one. Deuces.